Oh, action.
Hey everybody, we're back with Adam. I'm Tyler, and we're here with a no-name podcast.
No name podcast. Yeah, I'm going to answer a bunch of questions.
Yeah. How's it going?
Good.
Yeah, it's a pretty big movie weekend. Have you seen any of them?
No, I've been sick actually.
We got the Mission Impossible.
Yep. Any good?
It's pretty good. It's 3 hours long,
Oh, that's very long.
but it's Tom Cruise doing all this crazy stuff. So
Oh, I love that guy.
we got to give him props for it.
Yeah, it's crazy. 6 or 7 jumping out of planes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
nuts.
happening.
Right. What do we got?
Well, so I guess the key theme of this podcast today will be: is martial arts training necessary today, or is it even relevant? So, you I know that you have, and I have spent a lot of time on like martial arts communities online.
Back in the day.
Yep, and like most people that promote martial arts or are enthusiasts, they'll say it does everything. It's like a panacea. It fixes this. It fixes your
Better your health,
your health.
discipline, and blah, blah,
You know, if you have gout, kick somebody, you'll get better, right? But I wanted to get your take because your take is often it's unique and it's a bit more grounded often. So
sometimes, yeah.
yeah. So the first one is like most people obviously get into it for personal safety, self-defense, and stuff.
For health is a big one.
Yep, health,
Sun
community.
getting high, yeah.
There's tons of stuff. But in terms of personal protection, in terms of like what they call self-defense,
Yeah.
it's kind of in some ways you could say it's overrated because like even though our Facebook and everything tells us it's really, really dangerous out there, you got to be careful. People are getting hurt.
Behind every mailbox is a ninja waiting to
Yeah, exactly. Like, but we're actually living in the safest time in history.
At least
right?
in Canada, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if somebody were to come up to you and ask, like, hey, I really want to stay safe, I want to be able to protect my family and things like that.
Yeah.
Would martial arts be at the top of your list, or would it be like a part of a broader approach?
That's a question.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between martial arts, self-defense, combatives, and sport fighting. Huge difference. And then I think it's important that people, when they say, I want to learn how to fight, or when they say, I want to learn to protect myself, and the question is, what are you talking about? And I talk about this a little bit in my book, and I talk about it in other interviews, but I'll break it down as quickly as I can, right? So let's say you go into a grocery store. So you got groceries, right? You got fruit, you got vegetable, you got meat, all good. You got pasta, you got rice, okay. But groceries are not the same as being able to cook a certain food. Like if you want to cook French food, you want to cook Chinese food, Korean food, or whatever food. Depending on the type of food you want to cook, you extract or buy different groceries.
Yeah.
So martial arts is the same, right? You got like martial art to emphasize weaponry, martial art to emphasize grappling, martial art to emphasize kicking or punching, whatever. There's so many different types of martial art, hundreds around the world, right? That to me is just a grocery store. So when people say, hey, does it work? I'm like, work for what? Are you talking about sport fighting? Are you talking about combatives? Are you talking about self-defense? Even if you were to talk about sport, are we talking about a tournament where you're only allowed to use your hands, like boxing? We're talking about a martial art tournament where you're only allowed or mostly allowed to use your legs, like a taekwondo tournament. Are you allowed to punch and kick, like sanda, right, and standing grappling? Are you allowed to punch and kick and go down BJJ? Or like, so how you train, obviously, depending on what you're talking about, what tournament are you talking about? Everything is scenario-based. Everything is situation-based. Everything's a scenario. So if you're talking about a scenario of a tournament, what type of tournament? To say what grocery is the best, what martial art is the best is kind of stupid. It's like, well, what are you doing it for, right? Same thing with combatives and self-defense. They're not even remotely the same. Self-defense is based on the idea that you go to minimum force. If you have to, you escalate the force as a civilian, or you get arrested or go to jail. So you want to protect yourself, but you want to use minimum force. If you have to, stack it up, right? Kind of like police policy, right? Using your empty hands. If you have to, use mace, use your taser. If you have to, you get out your baton. And if last resort, you get out your firearm, right? Combative is the complete opposite. You go to maximum force in war to kill your enemy, right? Unless you're capturing a prisoner. And only if you have to, you scale down to the minimum force. Machine gun, if you lose that, then firearm. If you lose that, then your knife. If you lose that, then your hands. So it's a complete opposite. When people say, I'm going to train combat, I'm like, well, combative is not the same as self-defense, right? Even in self-defense, one-on-one is not the same as multiple opponent. It's not the same as home invasion or a rape situation or a carjacking situation or a kidnapping situation or fighting in the dark or fighting against a knife or someone pulling a machete or not the same. Some people say, oh, Wing Chun's no good or Tai Chi's no good or Bhagavad Hsing Yi. To me, they're just groceries. But which part of what martial art do you extract and how do you modify it to fit a very, very specific scenario? So is martial art good for protecting yourself? Look at the scenario. Look at the martial art. What martial art and which part of which martial art would you take to fit a very certain type of scenario? Oh, I'm going to cook Chinese food. Well, you're going to grab this grocery, that grocery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, it's common sense, but I still see people see things in terms of systems, right?
Yeah.
So does that make?
Oh, it does. Yeah. I think one of the difficult things is people will think, this is really good for fighting, and then this is really good for health or whatever.
Even for health,
yeah.
like we were talking about muscular system.
Yeah.
If you're a muscular system, weight training is way better than martial art. If you're a cardiovascular system, biking, running is better than martial art, right? Or even sprinting, right? If you're talking about your central nervous system, meditation is way better than martial art. Why would you do martial art? So I think it's very important if you want to reach your goal that two major things is, one, you have to be extremely precise in what you're shooting for, whether it's health or combat or self-defense or sport fighting or whatever. So be very, very precise. Most people are not. Not because they're dumb, it's just they haven't really taken the time. Principle number 2, once you're precise on what you actually want, only learn from the top 10 or 20% if you can, right? If you train with somebody that's mediocre, it'll waste 10 or 20 years of your time. When I was younger, in New Brunswick, for example, like I trained under certain people or older in Vancouver, but I trained many instructors. I'm not going to name who. Some of them were at this level, right? Later on, when I got a chance to train with someone at this level, I had to relearn everything. So learning something is hard. Relearning something is twice as hard. You have to deprogram your central nervous system to stack something back in, right? It's very important, whether you're learning to play the guitar or calligraphy or martial art or archery, try to find the best guy you can find. Yeah.
You've mentioned a lot of times, sometimes the best guys don't want to be found. And if they do teach, it's to very few select people. They don't advertise. They teach out of their basement or their garage or something like that. How do you get in?
You have to have character. Like Seattle, for example, is a melting pot of really good Kung Fu guys, right? Excuse me. I'm sick today, so I'm coughing. I'm sorry. In the sport world, they want to be known. That's the whole reason to get into sport. You want everyone to cheer your name, right? So obviously, these guys are easy to find. Whether you can get in or not depends on how much money you have, right? In the self-defense world, it's pretty much the same. But in the combative world, it's the opposite. Most of these guys on purpose don't want to be found. They don't want to be known. That's the whole point of combat. Combat, again, is the art of war. Sport is the art of entertainment through violence. Self-defense is learning how to protect yourself as a civilian. And I earlier went through the scale of force, right? In the combative world, guys are not saying they do combative, but guys that actually do it. Everyone I met in that world do not want to be found on purpose. Or they will pull a sleight of hand, right? They'll teach martial art in the front door. And if they like you, they'll invite you in the back. They're not doing martial art, they're doing combative. So in the front, they got a grocery store. In the back, they're teaching you how to cook.
Is that similar to what Bruce Lee did?
That's exactly what Bruce Lee did. But I don't want to go into that because just people are gonna get offended and stuff. But Seattle's
a little sensitive, isn't it?
Yes, Seattle is a melting pot of some of the greatest. Well, not just Seattle, rather all through that end. You got like Grandmaster David Harris, rest in peace. the great Steve Smith, who's still alive, Fukian, Jesse Glover, Ed Hart. In California, you got Sonny Ampad. You got guys that are really, really good at combative and martial art. They don't want to be known.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get in? You need pretty good character. You have to know someone to get in, right? And usually the character traits that they are looking for is someone with a good heart, someone that's willing to train hard, and someone that's discreet. Easy to find these traits in people, extremely hard to find all three traits in one person. It's against modern culture, right? Nowadays, you take a shit, you want to put it on Instagram.
Yeah.
So people are not discreet. Yeah. As for training hard, the average instructor now, like, there's a lot of hoppers. People train for 6 months and they call themselves a teacher. I don't know about training hard. So good heart, most people are pretty nice. That one's easy to find. So it's hard to find the right people. And they don't want to waste your time or hurt your feelings. So they usually keep what they're doing extremely quiet. Mm-hmm. Right? So teaching martial art and teaching combat is two different things. In the history of China, in the old days, they would teach martial art, but the combative stuff was saved for pretty close family and friends. So, Filipinos, Cambodia are like that. As far as I know, Indonesians the same. Haiti is the same. African martial arts the same. Any martial art that deals with blades and actual martial art. I mean, for the record, if you don't do weapons training, seriously, you technically don't do a martial art. Martial art comes from the root Mars, the art of war. Whether it's modern martial art or ancient martial art, people go to war with weapons, right? Mm-hmm. No weapons, you're not really doing a martial art, right? So guys that are actually doing this stuff for real, usually they don't want to be found. They don't advertise. So you want to get in, you got to show good character traits, really old school, know somebody, and then maybe if you're lucky, you get an interview. And then if you don't screw up the interview, then you slowly get up there, right? Yeah.
Do you think that somebody needs to have martial arts in order to be able to, protect themselves and
I don't really think so. I mean, like, I worked security, private and public, for about 10 years when times were hard, and I fill out a lot of police report because people get hurt because they get attacked. But I would say 99.999% of the time, they were in the wrong place in the wrong time because they had no street awareness. Mm-hmm. Had they had some common sense, I doubt they'll ever get.
They wouldn't have been there at that time.
No, I think the chances of getting attacked, I can't say this for everywhere, just where we live here in Canada, in the lower mainland, is less than 1%. Mm-hmm. I never in my stuff go, hey, learn to defend yourself. You should come learn from me. I never advertise like that ever in my life because it's bullshit, because you don't need them. I mean, you can live your entire life down here and probably never get into a fight. Providing you have good manners, you don't talk shit, you're not stupid, you don't go to the wrong neighborhood, you don't stare at people too long, you don't talk crap all the time. Just be old school. Learn your manners, just stay out of trouble.
So most fights are avoidable?
I would say most, at least in this place. I don't know, I can't speak for any other community that I never lived at, right?
Because, well, on the weekend I watched The Karate Kid. And it had a little clip in the beginning. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but it was the one part where Miyagi was saying, first rule of karate is for defense only. And then he goes to the second scroll and he says, second rule of karate, learn rule number 1, right? And it's like most schools will teach you got to avoid fights at all costs, run if you can. But I feel that people have a hard time doing that.
Yeah. Because this is saying your reptilian brain saying, hey, man, we should avoid violence, right? Yeah. I mean, not your reptilian frontal lobe, but when your reptilian brain fires, what happens? 85% of your decision come from your emotion, not your frontal lobe, right? We're a bunch of monkeys trapped in this little container, right? Yeah. So when you pay lip service to, like a lot of martial arts will pay lip service, be humble, be disciplined, stay out of trouble, learn your manners, have good self-control, avoid fights. But you see the same guys online, what they're doing, they're talking shit all the time, right? So what you say and what you do is not the same.
Are there psychological, are there things that maybe psychological implications of walking away from a fight? you know, because we always say, okay, walking away from a fight is the best thing to do. But you walk away from a fight, are there other kind of implications that can happen further down the road?
It comes down to awareness. Did you read the situation right? If the situation allowed you to walk away, obviously the right thing to do is to walk away. Right? But many years ago, I hate telling this story, but this guy, like, he was sexually harassing a waitress. Husband came down at the waitress, dragged the guy out, beat the shit out of the guy. The guy said, "Hey, please stop." So the guy walked away. The result was he got stabbed in the kidney and died, right? Shouldn't walk away when you shouldn't walk away. Walk away when you should walk. Nowadays, what we teach kids is violence is wrong, walk away at all costs. But yeah, that can cost you your life too, right?
Yeah.
So, like, neither way is bad. Like, hey, walk away when you should walk away. But how do you know when you should? Yeah. It comes down to awareness, right? But we live in an age where people are really lippy nowadays because they're raised online. So they're kind of programmed that whatever they say has no repercussion, right? If that gets into your subconscious and you start behaving like that when you're out and about, that can cost you. Because not everyone is like that. Some people are kind of nuts, right?
Yeah.
And you set them off, that's it. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Can you deal with it? I don't know. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But why you bother? Why you set the guy off in the first place? Is it really that hard to learn some manners? Come on, right? So walking away is natural if you're in a calm state.
But a lot of times, if you get in a conflict, you walk away. Later on, it just bugs you.
That's because your ego.
Bugs you. You know, even years down the road, I should have slapped him, or I should have done something, or I should have said something, or you know, my girlfriend must think I'm I'm a wuss because I walked away, or I lost face or whatever.
There's a hierarchy of monkeys, right? There's like this alpha thing. It's really deep in the back of primates, right?
Yeah.
You want to be the leader of your tribe, especially at the age where sexual competition, that age area. So it's really hardwired inside. Like you don't want to be seen like a weak male.
So for men, its age is like 18 to 75.
Shit, I don't know, something like that. But nowadays, until they're 65, they're still trying to act tough, right? Yeah. So your self-image is really important. So you spend your whole life defending your self-image. The car I drive, your clothes you wear, whatever. But it all boils down to sex, really. Mm-hmm. So you want to defend that, right? But you start to recognize when that's stupid. If the threat is lethal. Yeah. Right? That's why I think weapons training is where it's at. You can get rid of the douchebags really quick. A lot of guys, here's a story. This guy was a stick fighting local champion or some shit, and he was talking crap. And I don't know how he got an invite, but he ended up in the home of a top blade guy, the real guy. And he started talking crap. And hey, you want to spar? You want to spar? You want to spar? By that he means let's wear a helmet, play with toys, like foam sticks. And this really good guy is like, look at his student and nod, and the guy locked the door, so the guy can't even leave anymore. He put some real blades on the table, axe, sword, machete, knife. Just pick one up, let's spar. All of a sudden the guy's like, I don't want any part of that. He goes, well, it's not your choice. Late. And that's when he realized for the first time in his life, real danger is not your choice. That's the whole point of fighting as a last resort. That's what the sensei and the sifu and the old guy in the bar is trying to tell you. Look, man, you only do this if you're cornered. So the first time in his life, the guy realized, oh man, I bite off more than I can chew. Now he's very lucky they let him go. But that's my point. When there's a weapon on the table, suddenly people get their common sense back really fast. Providing the other guy has a weapon. Everyone's tough if you got a weapon, the other guy doesn't, right? But now when he's like, oh, look, the cost of losing this fight is not that I don't get a selfie, or I don't get a trophy, or I get a broken arm, or I might get knocked out, or I might get a bruise. The cost of this fight, if I lose, is I'll never see daylight again. I'll die today because he's got a blade in his hand. And he looks like he's pretty goddamn good with it. So when that is an actuality, not talking about it, right? Yeah. Suddenly you can override your ego really fast. Isn't that funny? So people's like, how do I overcome my ego? I'm like, it's not that hard. Your deep ape brain program you to value your ego for sex. You
Yeah.
want to be the alpha male. You want everyone to cheer your name. But the same reptilian brain also has a hardwired survival instinct, which overrides the crap out of this, providing there's real danger. Right? I think everyone should do some weapons training, especially if they have a not practical, but very classical stuff they can't even carry outside. It's too big.
like
Like a
Quan
gigantic,
Dao's or something like that.
like a gigantic, semi-sharp 9-foot spear with no helmet, no pad, nothing. All of a sudden, something inside them register actual mortal danger. Makes them question their beliefs a lot. I'm no longer fighting because someone shoved me. I'm no longer fighting because you said something bad about me. I'm not fighting because you look at my girlfriend. I'm fighting because this guy's got a spear.
Yeah.
So now something deep inside you probably can't even verbalize. His way in the back brain goes, oh, that's why I'll move.
I remember back in the day, you wanted to do weapons. We didn't have any knives, so you used spoons. And something about the shininess of it.
The metal.
It just like something, it set off something kind of different. Like, you get used to seeing punches thrown at your face, but this felt, very, very different.
Yeah, sociological. Most martial art was developed, that we see nowadays, was developed and practiced and promoted during peacetime. So if it's a traditional martial art, it doesn't work. And to me, I agree with that. But that's because you're not going far back enough. What do you mean by traditional? So we got present moment, modern times. And then from that timeline, if we go back a little bit more, we get traditional martial art. Yeah, it doesn't work. Okay. But they're both developed in peacetime. Modern works, traditional doesn't work. Both in modern times. But if you go really modern, and if you go really ancient, they're the same. Okay, we have modern martial art, MMA or box. It doesn't matter, Wing Chun, whatever. Wing Chun's like what, 300-400 years old? Well, any martial art, right? Traditional martial art, okay. Which one's better? And then people argue, right? But let's go really modern. What do you got? Drones. You got a nuclear weapon. You got guns. Okay. Now you go really ancient martial art. Well, stone knives, rocks, all weapon based. On both sides of the spectrum, whether you go the oldest and the newest is always weapons, is in the middle, people dick around and call each other names and fight where there's actually no real threat. No one dies. Everyone's make sure they're playing safe, right?
Because it's safe to
right,
shoot your
because
mouth off.
this is peacetime. All martial art come from sociological factors, never the other way around. Humans made martial art. They didn't come from God. It's sociological. It's based on the factor of the period of history and society. During peacetime, we make up peaceful martial art. During wartime, we have weapons martial art. And the type of men they make are not the same. If you take a kid and you go, okay, I want to teach you how to fight so you can feel strong, so everyone can cheer your name, so you can feel good about yourself. That's different than taking somebody and go, oh, you're a little bit different. I want you to sacrifice yourself to save your mother and your son. And you might die if you move, so don't move unless you have to. The guy might be better than you. You might be going up against 10 guys. You might, you don't know. So that is, it's a complete different thing. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm saying on the surface, it looks like I'm advocating weapons and this ancient tribal thinking is better. It's not. It gives you PTSD. Yeah. It's all bad in my mind. Qi Gong's good. Yeah.
Is it all bad in your mind?
Well, yeah, if you take I don't want to offend anyone, but I don't want to lie. If you train weapons too much, it will screw you up, right?
But what if
you train it for real, not playing around with toys.
Well, obviously, too little is no good because it doesn't really build any kind of habits. Too much, you develop PTSD.
Yeah.
What about somewhere in the middle?
How far?
Can't be all bad, right?
How far do you take your intent? What kind of human being thinks about stabbing people? Right? You're not screwing around. You're moving in. You're moving in. Right?
Do you think it can get addictive?
Yeah, more than cocaine.
Yeah.
You look at the best guys that ever lived, they were all obsessed. And if you look farther than that, they all had childhood trauma. of violence. Normal people don't spend most of their maturing time getting off literally on how to hurt people, right? The best guys in martial art, if you look at history, were obsessed about inventing ways of hurting another human being because they were hurt themselves at one point in their lives. And they got really goddamn good at it. You don't get good at it's like Carl Jung said, right? The psychologist. People don't have ideas. Ideas have people. They just grab onto you. Or like Einstein said, excellent demand all of you, right? I think getting good at martial arts is great. Just don't aim too high.
Do you think that's unique to martial arts, or do you think anything, any endeavor?
It is now. It is now documented in neurology, right? Mm-hmm. When you get peak experience and get really good at something, you have a crash, but you have to chase the next high higher than the previous high.
It's like a drug.
Like a drug, because you're literally having a chemical drug of dopamine. Yeah, and then you have a dopamine crash, and we call it adrenaline fatigue, burnout syndrome, whatever. All top athletes and people that are top in their domain always experience this, right? If they go too high, they crash, right? This is not good for you, right? Mm-hmm. Obsession's never a good thing. Sure. Moderation and balances, right? Yeah. But we run on dopamine, not serotonin. Is that you don't want to, you want to get stuff all the time, right? You don't want to just have contentment. So we seek pleasure. So because of that, we crash. But if you don't seek pleasure and seek contentment, it's different. One's like opium, right? One's like cocaine. Yeah. Right? So your brain has both types. It's kind of like meditation. You get a type of bliss, a type of peace. But that doesn't have a crash. So martial artists have tried to do that in the past, internal martial art. Somewhere along the line, these guys, that most of them were soldiers, they end up doing meditation and Qigong, and they try to, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. And they try to put it together that this stuff will no longer give you PTSD, this stuff will no longer screw you up, this stuff will give you bliss. Because we also meditate along martial, and they try to put that together. Sometimes successfully, sometimes no. Yeah.
You're not making a very good argument to learn martial
arts. I am not. No, I think martial art is what are you learning it for? Yeah. If you're learning it for combat, that's great, but don't overdo it. If you're learning it for sport, that's great. Don't overdo it. If you're doing self-defense, it's great. Don't overdo it. My whole thing is don't overdo it. I overdid it and I almost died. I think for those that follow and read my Qigong book and saw the Qigong series, they're pretty familiar with my work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't overdo it.
Okay, all right.
It's too fun.
It is extremely fun. Yeah, definitely. Well, moving on to the health and fitness aspect of it, because I don't know how to segue from there. But
no need to segue, just shooting shit. Yeah.
Do you think that the fitness aspects are kind of overstated?
Yes.
You know? Yeah. Oh, well.
Right. Say a guy that's good at martial arts, the same as a guy good at baseball, basketball, whatever. They all got injuries. Athletes are always sporting a new accessory of injuries.
Shoulder.
Yeah. Even like a bounce out is not good for your shoulder. A side kick's not good for your hip. Just show it to a chiropractor; they'll shake their head.
But you often grow up learning. Oh, there's no such thing as too much training. You got to train harder. Why are you training so little, right? Yeah. If you train 10 hours, they'll say, why aren't you training 11, right? It's that kind of tough guy attitude growing up in,
That was the 70s and 80s. Like when I was growing up learning martial art in the 80s, it was like, go harder. Yeah. And nowadays, sports science did a really good job documenting overtraining syndrome, which can kill you.
So how do you approach longevity in training so that you don't end up with a bung shoulder at 60 or
that depends on what.
You yourself.
Give me an example. Punching, kicking, speed, accuracy, power, sensitivity.
Well, just for let's just say punching, because punching is
Yeah. So let's say I'm punching like this, right? Yeah. I'm going like this, right? And I got big gloves on. I'm taping my hands. And then I get in a fight and I do the same thing and I break my hand and I go, hey, wait a minute, I should do iron palm so my hands don't break. Or a palm strike. Yeah. So I started doing iron palm, but I like it too much because now my hands are
breaking
hard.
Bricks and stuff.
Yeah, so now you got arthritis, right?
Yeah.
So when you get older, you want to start changing that. There are ways of hardening your hand through Qigong without having to smack shit all day long, right? That would be an example. Mm-hmm. Or like punching. I'm punching like this, right? punching like this. Then if you look at it, my shoulder and my elbow doing that. I got a lot of friends that teach Wing Chun. All of them got shoulder injuries. A lot of them have elbow injury from punching in the air. So change the way you move. Don't be so straight, add spirals and circles. It actually loosens and moistens the joints if you're operating more circular. But they say, hey, if you do a circular technique, it leaves you wide open, right? Yeah. Smell. Oh, the water's in the way. Damn water. Okay. So it leaves you wide open. But you can actually go in a straight line and still make it circular so it's hitting, kind of like a bullet spiraling, right? So I've been an example, like self-reeling in Tai Chi, for example, or like in Bagua or in Hsing Yi. A lot of circles, right? And these circles actually save your joints when you get older.
How would you know that if you're not, an expert like you?
I wouldn't say I'm an expert. Been doing this stuff for 39 years, and the more you do this stuff, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. It's like a kid in a candy shop that doesn't run out of candy, right?
Yeah.
So to learn this stuff, you got to use your brain and not get fixated. I got friends that do Wing Chun. Anything that's outside Wing Chun, they don't even want to look at it.
Yeah.
I got friends that do MMA, and anything outside MMA, they don't want to look at it. But you should have an open mind.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
It is, man, because
MMA came out of,
yeah,
a mixture of whatever worked at the time, right?
Yeah, you should have an open mind, but open mind for what?
Yeah.
It comes down to open mind for what? Like, you have an open mind, you have a scientific way of doing things, you're constantly researching, and you're making gains, then you get addicted to the gains, that leads to a crash. And that's not the Taoist way. Right?
The Taoist way, what's that?
You let the experience teach you without any effort to make it better. Like a kid riding a bike. That's how a kid learns how to ride a bike. Like you use so many different muscles to learn how to walk through trial and error as an infant before you can even verbalize it. Just by the kid being happy trying to chase the parent. Is adjusting, is modifying, is morphing itself to do the walking, right? But it's not tracking everything like a mad dog, right? So you can collect data, make decision, make adjustment, do trial and error, reverse engineer stuff, and repeat the loop. That's great. I'm just saying if you overdo it, you'll go nuts. Versus you let your intuition take over. And it's been proven over and over nowadays that the fastest way human learns through play. Not through going hard, through play. That's how mammals teach their young to hunt. So when you play, what it does is it tap into the brain that you're intuitive and you're making creative adjustment without collecting data, making conscious decisions, and making conscious modification. You're not using a scientific method. In a way you are through experimentation, but now you're not like constantly overthinking, right? Research and development will lead to overthinking, and that it will fuck you up. Because what the scientists do, yeah, they got a whole team of people. But if you're just one guy in your garage trying to get good at stuff, I know people that sit there and test stuff and retest 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 stuff, and then when they get good at it, they spend their whole life trying to beat that.
Yeah.
And then they go.
So they create a game out of it.
They create a game and they try to beat that game. Right?
An obsessive game.
Yeah. So instead, you want to play. I know people shit on Systema all day long, right? But in my mind, they're like, people shit on play drills, like Systema, Capoeira, Filipino flow drills, African flow drills. Oh, it's not realistic because you're just floating back and forth. Yeah, there's a reason. It's like saying when a chimpanzee or when a lion is playing with their cub to teach him how to hunt. Well, it's not realistic. Well, yeah, they're playing. But playing is the fastest way humans can learn according to neuroscience, right? But now you throw the name neuroscience, all of a sudden everyone's like, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So, you gotta play, make adjustment, but not consciously. Then you grow faster than you can ever dream of. But there's a drawback to that. If all you do is play and there's no actual realism scenario work, then your play falls apart as soon as it's real because you panic.
So you play to build the skills and then you try to apply it in some kind of scenario training.
Yeah, but it should be 80-20. If you reverse that, you go 80 realistic, 20 play, you'll get PTSD. Yeah, or you go, yeah.
To your knowledge, does the military do that kind of?
According to
is that how they
studies,
do it?
when they adopted scenario training, their kill rate went from 3% to, if I remember correctly, 67.
Just adopting play.
That's why, no, adopting a scenario.
Oh, I see.
That's why the paramedics do it. That's why military do it. All first responder use scenario training, not sparring. Because sparring is actually a scenario, but it doesn't mimic criminal assault. So reverse engine. I had the pleasure of meeting the Canadian military scenario, the guy that designed scenario training to the Canadian military ops when I was doing security. And I had a long conversation with him. That's why I know some of these stats, but it is not a good thing. It will give people PTSD.
Makes them effective.
Extremely effective, but they
messes
have a
them
very short career. Right? That it should always be 80-20, 90-10. 90 play, 80 play. And then that stuff that I'm just talking about, that dark stuff, should only be about 10 or 20%. You'll build a longer athlete or a fighter, whatever you want to call it to make yourself feel good. Way more longevity and way more effective. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think we're going to stop there for today.
All
We'll
right.
continue on with the rest of this next week.
Yeah. Next time I'll be more positive. I'm sick today.
Hopefully.
All right, dude.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.